everyone, welcome back to Naturally with Karen. Some of you might have read my post on my Facebook page last night about they're killing you, and the brain tumors, the glioblastomas, the frontal, temporal, the many different types of brain diseases and brain tumors. And it's my firm opinion that the majority of the time, perhaps not every single time, but the majority of the time, these could have been prevented, along with our throwing a glut of pills and hormones, we're told, are put into a pill that we swallow a hormone, and that hormone is going to rescue us when it comes to glandular issues like thyroid issues. So I thought I would just share today a little bit about that post last night because it triggers people a little bit. And either you're all the way in the other, foot in the other camp, which is you're not a doctor and you shouldn't be speaking about these things and whatever. But I'm a coach, and I'm not a coach that went to a 6-month coaching program. I'm someone that actually is very self-taught and walked this for my entire life, gathering from a multitude of different sources. So, oh, my mail guy's coming by, and I hope the dogs don't start barking. Let me shut the door real quick. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, that will kind of minimize the sound, and since we haven't really had anyone join us, it gives people a chance to kind of come on board. So if you're watching, I'm sorry for the delay on your end. I'm also going to brighten the light here for just a moment because it just got really dark and cloudy as the sun seems to have gone under the clouds. Okay, there we go. That's a lot brighter. That's a lot better, and the door is shut so the dogs won't be barking. So I will be at the shop tonight working with a couple of clients, and one of them will be receiving wellness coaching. And during that time, we're going to go over her patient report from the hair tissue mineral testing. And with just, about most people, because of the diet that we're on, because of the lifestyle that we have, the majority of people have got a calcium to potassium ratio that is, causing them to have a thyroid deficiency. What that means is your thyroid is getting slowed down because of that calcium and potassium, or the calcium and potassium level will show us through your hair tissue testing. So on this report, I folded it down so it would be an 8.5 by 11. But you would see, the calcium on the far side and the potassium is a letter K. And you're going to see exactly with a number underneath each one of these. Also, the name is written there because most of us, we're not people that studied a lot of chemistry. I've got 3 chemistry books out here with me right now that I just really pour through in addition to all of my decades of working with people. So I'm kind of a geek that way, just like some people are with cars and some people are with boats or planes or whatever. So your calcium to potassium levels are where the lab is going to apply statistical and clinical research data to formulate whether or not you're thyroid deficient. If you're thyroid deficient, it's going to be a part and parcel as to why your metabolism will show a slow 1, a slow 2, a slow 3, or a slow 4. Conversely, if you've been going for a very long time, if you've been living and going, a car is going or whatever, and you don't pay attention to the fact that your thyroid is out of balance, it's deficient in what it needs, it cannot any longer make thyroid hormone, right? So your pituitary gland up here next to your hypothalamus has got to secrete that TSH, that thyroid stimulating hormone. In order for it to do that, it's got to be functioning well in those levels that are on your test here, the nutritional elements, and then in the red over here, the toxic elements. They've got to be managed. And so we would never have had to manage this in the past, except that, and but for the way that we are being treated today. And we're being treated with so many drugs called medications that it's become easy, and perhaps the doctors have, and the people have all fallen into this, but I don't think so. Okay, perhaps that's your reasoning, but it's no longer mine. It was my reasoning for a great many years, but it's not anymore. I see that maybe perhaps a lot of people have begun to feel this way because that is the quickest way to reason within your own mind. Well, how in the heck could this have happened? Okay, so we don't want to swallow a hormone pill if we can avoid it, meaning if you still have your thyroid, if you're not under strict doctor's orders, and you've got some ability to put a plan into action for yourself, then the first thing we're going to do on a preventative level is get your hair tissue mineral analysis done and get it reviewed together so I can show you, because it's easy to read the report yourself. It's very, very simple. And it's very clear, and it explains. I'll kind of show you here by folding down the person's name. It will tell you and even give you a price on the supplements that are recommended. Okay. So if they want you to take, in this case, a Parapack, adrenal support, B6, and HCl, which is a hydrochloric acid, meaning a person's got a weakened gut function. That's going to be what it is. But so how does this all relate to a glioblastoma? I mean, someone who's now, and I got permission from my client, and it's her relative, it's her family member. She's been seeing me for well over 10 years, and she trusts me. And for a long time, when I talked about these things like I am right now, it was kind of like, oh, kind of just, take it with a grain of salt. But now more and more people are actually really, truly picking up. They're picking up. And so when I went to the gym today, I overheard people while I was walking through the gym, oh yeah, I had a pretty bad problem and I was hospitalized, but they did their rotor-rooter thing and I'm all cleaned out and so my leg's good. And in my mind, that's borderline insanity, because if you're not being educated and you're going to go back out after you've been rotor-rootered and cleaned out like that through your arteries, and you're going to go back out and consume starch and meat and dairy and eggs, you're just going to re-injure yourself. And so in 35 years, I've had plenty of occasion from being a young militant vegan, which means I wasn't going to touch anything that was absolutely, not vegan. And then I kind of slipped off a little bit. And then I even had a couple of instances where, I got really through some very high stress, including, a last one with a family member that was opioid addicted. And I myself, I wasn't eating meat, but I was grabbing pretzels, so lots of wheat, and they probably had some egg and some dairy in them. I mean, let's be real, right? So I always tell people it's better to be totally honest and candid and say, and that's why, you could see a lot of puffiness even in myself. So the rotor-rooter, I can be on the elliptical for an hour and I can hear all around me older folks, and not only hear, but I can see them kind of shuffling along and hobbling because of the starch in their joints. So 50% of what chiropractors do is remove subluxations. And subluxation is really the deposition of starch and calcifications in between the joints. So if you want to prevent arthritis, rheumatoid, osteo, and all of those, getting a hair tissue test is going to show you those calcium, potassium, copper, zinc levels, and so on. And I'm going to be able to, just like the lady tonight with the elevated phosphorus, I'm going to be able to show you, hey, these are things we need to pay attention to. And here's some simple, quick, inexpensive things you can do with your food and a couple of supplements that you could buy. They're going to really perk you up. And so between those two, we'll go to the next session. And now you're going to get better and better and better and better. And so on it goes. And that's why I say step by step. Okay. So your thyroid, the majority of people have got a thyroid issue, not because they're clinical, but because what's going on is they didn't know that all these foodstuffs, food products that they were eating were causing them esophageal issues, just like the live stream I did the other day. Okay. A man was exercising next to me. He was 75 and he had the plugged ears. He had the halo ablation. He had IBS. He was now diagnosed with diabetes. He had vertigo, which means he was dizzy, right? Which means that he had a serious gut imbalance that was allowed to go and go and go and go. And it started to create problems with his minerals. Likely because he's lived in Cloquet his whole life, he likely probably also has toxic elements like mercury and aluminum, because most of these folks have believed in getting the flu shot and everything else. So when I walked into the locker room, there was a client who'd also done a hair tissue mineral test. And she just said, I said, hey, how are you doing? She said, not so good. I said, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. What's going on? And she goes, well, I'm thinking between the hair test that you did, and she bought a package, a hair test and a consult, like it's on sale right now for $149 through the end of September. And I said, why don't we do your consultation so we can go over it? She goes, well, I'm going to go to the doctor first, and I'm going to ask him what's going on with my thyroid. I said, okay, sounds like a plan. But as I stated in my Detox and Heal Your Thyroid book, it's an ebook you can download right now on naturallywithkaren.com. I said, don't count on really getting much more help besides being given a synthetic thyroid hormone, or you might be, graced with the doctor who's willing to offer you a desiccated, meaning an animal's thyroid has been cut out and they have dried and desiccated, which means to dry it and turn it into a powder and turn it into a medication for you. Now, instead of throwing thyroids, and this is the nugget, I'm going to get in the habit of doing this, the nugget of this live stream. You don't take hormones the majority of the time. There are a few instances where I'm sure that might be the case. But I have clients that really cannot wrap their mind around remaining on BHRT well into their 60s for menopausal issues, for endometrium thickening, and I'm not saying it as a put down. What I'm saying is that you do the work. You do the step by step and fix your thyroid and fix the underpinnings of the glioblastoma, the endometrium, the mental health, so endocrine, hormonal, immune, autoimmune, all of these are long-standing issues. And so, yes, they're starting to affect our children. You bet they are. Okay. Now, my client who I did the live stream the other day, who was a 75-year-old, not my client, but someone exercising next to me, 75-year-old man, told me that for the vertigo, the dizziness, and I can't tell you, in 16 years just in Minnesota of going in many, many, many hours every week and working with bodies and hearing the stories and going home and doing the research, reading the PubMed, reading from Mayo, reading from the VA, reading from all different sorts of sources, lots and lots and lots of books, hundreds of books, and lots of research. And long before we Googled everything, I would hit the libraries and hit the ancient books. And so that's where I found, with my father giving me Arnold Ehret's books in the 1980s, found other folks that also were long ago and knew that there were solutions. So he actually, the 75-year-old man, was told to go to physical therapy. So that's time to get in your car, gas in his case, and drive over to the hospital and go to your physical therapy appointment, where he was given vestibular therapy. And how he describes it was he was to look straight ahead, as if looking at a television, because that's how people relate anymore. The television takes precedence over communication and food preparation and everything, because people genuinely feel they've got to have time to relax and sit on the couch and turn on the TV. And that is America's, maybe the world's right now, form of relaxation. And it really isn't. It really is a form of programming. It really is not relaxation to sit on a couch when the whole family could be either going out for a walk, people could be reading, People could be doing study. They could be improving themselves. I mean, there's all sorts of things. You could be putting a sauna in the house instead of paying for cable. So let's just say if the average person paid $600 or more per year for cable, and I'm quite sure it would be at least double that, they could have actually taken that money in their budget and installed a sauna in their house. Or if they're renters, which is the case, or they're nomads, they actually could have bought a pop-up infrared sauna tent to go. So there's always solutions with how you can spend your time. Okay, so the vestibular therapy was to look straight ahead and shake your head this way, back and forth, and shake your head, or back and forth and side to side, and to keep doing it. So I got to wonder, I mean, were we trying to shake something loose or what was going on? So lastly, I think I got a couple minutes. Let me check here before I leave. Nope, I got about 5 minutes. Okay. So lastly, when it comes to the glioblastoma, okay, and now the symptoms came up, which was headaches, nausea, dizziness, loss of strength, okay, mood issues. And this particular person was a female in her 60s and on antidepressants since her 30s. And as many of us do, not all, I like to be kind of an open book about many things, most things, maybe not all, but most things. She was not very, sharing about what she'd been taking, and at least it wasn't shared with me, what she'd been taking for well over 30 years in the form of an antidepressant. I don't believe in antidepressants. I never have from the time they came out. I see them as stuffing our problems down. So when the body and the brain, the mind and the thoughts, we're saying something's wrong, I'm depressed, I'm downtrodden, we have options based on our genre and our culture and our access to things. It might be alcohol. It might be food drugs, which are, sugar and processed foods and denatured foods and chemical foods, right, that are exciting, excitotoxins. They're, ramp us up for a few moments and we feel really good, and then they bring us way back down because of their glycemic spike. We wonder when we look at our patient reports and see hyperglycemia, that's prediabetes, right? We've worked the pancreas too much, too many glycemic spikes, even from foods that we might have been unaware were much more glycemic spiking us than eating a king-size Snickers bar, as Dr. William Davis describes in the Wheat Belly book. He talks about a whole grain wheat sandwich, like a turkey on a whole grain premium organic sandwich that you'd buy at a Whole Foods or something like that, an expensive sandwich, and a king-size Snickers bar, and which one gave you the higher glycemic index but the wheat sandwich. So we don't need to wait around for the doctor to say that we're celiac sprue or that we have a wheat allergy. We don't need to really believe that we have allergies. If they're to mold and this and that, then they're not really allergies. It's just that now you're much more environmentally sensitive. Okay? So antidepressant use, poor diet, overweight, blocking and stuffing down where the body would have communicated it was trying, that given all of the other family members that I'm aware of, and that's quite a few, over many, many, many years, a long-standing thyroid issue within the family, not because it was genetic, because it was inherited through diet, behavior, exposures. Could be radiation, it could be dentistry, amalgams, number one, right? Living near paper mills, it could be any number of things, okay? So the glioblastoma was no surprise to me. The surprises when it comes to brain tumors and brain cancers are going to be in 2020 when they launch 5G with, full power in 2020 all across the land. This is where, just like I explained with the man who put the remote control for the TV on the top of his thigh. So if you've got coagulated tissue, tissue that could easily form cysts. And I find it every single day that I do body work for 16 years here, plus in California. My hands go over the hips, and I've even started to point it out to my clients and say, do you feel the gristle along your hip girdle? Do you feel this rash around your neck? It feels like a string of pearls, you know, but it's like you can feel the bumps all across the neck. And you know that when you're offering body work, you're really not at liberty to say, you know, I really, really need you to be concerned about this because of your weight, the rash around your neck, the gristle all around your hips, and the fact that I see these issues coming up for which you're using this or that product to make the communication your body is giving you go away. But I haven't been able to do that for 16 years. Instead, you know, it's been looked at like, you know, who does she think she is? I'm someone who wants to help, and I'm someone who's far from a hobby. I'm a business, in that I put a lot of work into being self-taught. So that's what I wanted to say today before I get going. Fire started snoring because it went from really warm to kind of breezy and cool out. So I hope you're enjoying fall. Glioblastoma is such a big fancy word. Brain tumors scare all of us, right? But I see so many young people in my own family. I wish I could say this person and with specificity and comfortably just say, see, this is what's going on. And we could all do like the ancient African ways, and we could call that person into the circle and say, we need to work on this. This is what's going on. But they don't leave the house. They can't hold down a job. There's nothing physically wrong with them, except that their anxiety, their isolating and avoidant behaviors are so exponential that they find it too difficult to deal with other people face to face. So that's avoidant. Isolating, staying in the house. Whether you call it GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, or you call it agoraphobia, or you call it autistic spectrum disorder, or you call it Parkinson's disease, or you call it dementia, or you call it gut dysbiosis, it's all the same thing. And so instead of seeing what I do as strictly Karen just works with food, no. Karen finds out your trace element levels, your toxicity inside of your body with the toxic elements. We listen to the mind-body. So there's mind-body medicine, there's the hair tissue mineral analysis, there's the plant-based nutrition, there's detoxification, I'm a certified yoga teacher, and so I'm going to incorporate maybe some poses. I'm an herbalist, so I might say I've got a great tea, I've got the shaga latte, or I've got this, or I've got that, and this will be perfect for you, right? This will wean you off of your chocolate cravings, or this will really help you and your child. You know, and I look at helping the whole family, which is very different than how a doctor does things. So anyway, I'm going to go begin my day. I've got 2 more clients, and I'm very, very much looking forward to seeing them. I prepared for the wellness last night and have some things noted down so I can give her the best possible, you know, use of her time and her money. Because just like the lady said today, you know, when she said, well, I'm going to go to my doctor and have my thyroid tested again, I wanted to say, good luck with that, because the majority of the people are thyroid deficient long before the doctor ever finds what's going on through blood serum testing, okay? You make many different thyroid hormones. Your skin is like a big your fingernails are like solar panels. That's why you don't see me paint my fingernails or my toes, right? And that's what I want in my pack, meaning the closest people to me, is to be as optimized as possible. So when I see painted toes and painted fingernails, I say, whoa, wait a minute. These are our solar panels. So we're not making vitamin D because we're slapping sunscreen on. We're painting our fingernails and putting artificial nails on. We're using heavy duty chemicals that go in through the solar panels and into the bloodstream. Calcium is not just for your bones. Calcium has to help your heart to function. Your lungs, if they're full of mucus and goop and you've got you're always kind of, clearing your throat and blocking up things, then your lung power is not going to be sufficient, and then your heart is going to start to take the hit. Okay, so I can show you through your hair tissue testing. You can go to Hair Tissue Mineral Analysis, which is a new Facebook page, so I don't just bombard this one all about hair testing. But if you have any questions about what I shared, feel free to write them down below. And I'm going to head out for now, and I thank you for joining me. All right, have a good day, guys.